I'm waiting for my Dolby chip to come in, which has arrived. I figured I'd take a look at this we picked up. This is a Realistic SCT-33 from 1980. Oh, what year is this? 81, 82? This is from 1982. This is about the end of the line for decent cassette decks. This is a 3-head logic control deck. OEM is Hitachi. These are very good decks, in my opinion. Bias adjust, etc. And it just had the belts that had gone to goo, and I've replaced them. And functions pretty well. I like this was not LED. This is the illuminated fluorescent display with peak hold, which I like. This is a tape that was probably made about 30 years ago, maybe. That's a TDK high bias. So we'll stop this. Show all functions here. We have fast forward, rewind. I'll check the record and other functions. Pause. So I have a couple things. I haven't changed the counter belt. I was going to leave it, but while we're in here I might as well change it. All you do is take the panel off here. There's two long Phillips head screws. You carefully take this plate off, and that exposes all your drives. I have to clean this take-up rubber here anyway. It's just squealing a little. It's cigarette paste. And I'm going to take this belt off here, and I'm going to match it up and replace it. That's the counter belt right here. While I'm at it, I should mention to remove the main drive belt and the, I'll call it the take-up drive, whatever. Well, this is actually the clutch for auto fast forward and rewind. Anyway, all you have to do is take this screw out. There's some glue down here on each bottom clasp, and you just tilt the motor assembly back, and it's pretty self-explanatory. There's two belts on this pulley, the small one and the large main belt. This belt measures about 7 inches and we'll say like 18 centimeters. I have a 6.6 here. I do have some Chinesey belts here, but I'm really skeptical about putting some of these in. I could measure and find one, but I don't want to mix them up. I just don't know how good the quality of the rubber is. Here isn't too bad after almost 40 years. It works, but it's stretched, so I'm going to replace it anyway. But again, I'm a little, don't know if I want to substitute one of these or not. Maybe. Well, we'll see how we do. Okay, there is one belt in the kit there. I'll allow for shrinkage, stretchage, and this one's pretty close. So I'll try one from the Chinesey kit. Okay. Take my spudger I've hooked and fished it through here, and I'll just go around the pulley like so. And make sure you have there's a fold in here. Make sure the square, there's no flips or folds in the belt, that the square, I'll check that you're square all the way around. If there's a flip in it, make sure it's all square all the way around. Maybe hard to see, but we have no flips, no twists, completely straight square belt. This is a north-south magnet reed switch. Very clever to tell when the tape stops moving, to tell the logic that this tape has stopped. Next, I'm going to take the advice of the experts. When you're cleaning this stuff, I don't use alcohol any longer. It causes damage to the rubber. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen in front of me. Crack and ruin rubber. So just a drop of Dawn dishwashing and some mild, just soapy water, and I'm just going to wipe that take-up wheel down. Just dip my microfiber in here and wipe those tape transport parts. We have our new counter belt installed. I did wipe the rubber tire there. This tire is in good shape. Just a little cigarette paste on it and whatnot. I just want to wipe away. and it wouldn't hurt to take the hubs off here and put a drop on these shafts, but I'm not doing that right now. I'll leave that up to you. I'm not getting into that right now. At a later date, you can pop those off and just ever slightly put a drop on each one. Maybe not even a drop. Wipe down our little backing plate here on our diffuser, as there was cigarette crud on this side of it. Okay. I want to mention on the counter belt, I did loosen these 3 Phillips head screws just to give me some play in that pulley, so I could just sneak around this reed here to get the belt on. You don't want to break that. I believe that's glass. These 2 screws, I should say. No, there are 3. There's one over here. Okay. Here we are playing. This is what I'm talking about, the 3 head. There's a record and playback head. So you can listen to the recording as... I wanted to mention, as you're putting the screws back in the back plate here, watch out for the tape selector tabs here, or this adjustment. One's the record tab. There's just a couple of plastic levers. You don't want to force those or break them as you're screwing the back panel in. Snap our door back in, and we're ready to go. You're looking for someone who shouts. You're looking for someone all the time.
That's The Knack with the late Doug Feiger on lead vocals, and one of the most famous songs to feature a woman's name in the title, My Sharona. You're on Rewind with Gary Bryan, and now, here's Dick Clark.
Now, when it came to inventing rock and roll titles with women's names, the New Jersey group couldn't be beat. They had songs like Sherry, Dawn, Mary Ann, and Candy Girl, and this one, Ronnie, The Four Seasons.
Itself and the 2 greatest American institutions of all time.
Don't stop innocent kids from drinking cola and surfing. It's the American way.
If you missed Surf 1, you owe it to yourself to see Surf 2.
I think these guys would be mature enough to take surfing seriously.
Surf 2, rated R. You're watching MTV Music Television, the first and only stereo video music channel. But if you're not listening to MTV in stereo, you're only getting half the picture. To get the full sound potential, call your local cable company for a stereo hookup into your FM receiver. Why settle for only half the sound picture when you can have it all? MTV Music Television in stereo.
Okay, continuing on with the TR-803. I received my Dolby chips the other day, and we'll proceed to remove the defective one here. Pop it in the player and give it a try. So our pins are numbered. Pin 1 is down by the left hand side of the board, looking this way. Sometimes I like to just cut the chip out. That way removing the legs is that much easier. I may decide to cut this chip. I am not sure yet. I may have to clean some of these up with the iron, but let's get this chip out. I believe I have every chip. There's at least 3 legs that were bent over, and of course the ground, I assume, there is always toughest. So this should come out with with ease now. Should. There we go. Okay, make sure we have it in correctly, and make certain that all legs protrude through the bottom of the board, which they are. We'll proceed to solder it up, and of course it's a Radio Shack player. We have to use Radio Shack solder. That's recommended. I did scrape the leads of the chip. Even though they look good, you scrape them anyway. I believe pin 16 of this is the power. Okay, just for the sake of the fact that I have to take this capacitor out here and replace it because it's folded over, it just fits. And it was green and leaky. It's still good, but I'm replacing it. All the others are accessible except this one. I'm going to change this one out. I'm going to put the original Dolby back in the side it was in. I'm going to put the replacement in the original channel. While we were waiting for our chip to come in, we also replaced the main drive belt. A user writes and say, hey, is it okay if I take things out of these old boards? Well, that's really personal preference. I've had no problem. If you find some abandoned electronics, this is a digital converter box. That's where I've got this 10 at 16 out of. Yeah, some of them, the quality may not be Nichicon quality, but for the most part in audio here, it's not doing a lot of work. Why not? And if you're not comfortable, you can test them with your little electronic tester first. Okay, our new capacitor is in. I've desoldered this so many times, it's getting kind of messy, meaning as you desolder, the solder splash has been all around here. So you want to clean that up. It's known in the old days as lead poisoning. You don't want any of the splashes going across any of the traces, so we clean those up. We'll get ready to reinsert our modules. Okay, I've gone ahead and just tacked each one of those in. I'll solder them more permanently. These are empty from the factory. So I've tacked each one of those, checked my connections, and we're ready for testing. That's what I mentioned. We got to be careful. A video that's like 3-4 years old got a copyright hit and has been blocked. So if you didn't get a chance to see K-Part BSR, you're out of luck. Anyway, we're about to test here. I'll use this. I'll be careful. Power on. Again, everything's been checked. There is a possibility of putting those in backwards, I noticed, but they're incorrectly. Here's our new capacitor down there. Okay, we have our left and right channels attached. Have not tried it with this belt yet. We're on pause. And we have the belt is a little too taut, but we have both channels. Okay, for now we'll run on the original belt. You can see the original belt is quite a bit larger, but I deducted for shrinkage 10%. But this replacement belt is a 9.6, and it's also too thick and it's too wide. One thing I don't understand is 85% of this stuff is imported from Asia. Why everything is in inches? I don't, and quarter inch and all this, I don't understand. I don't know what tape recorders were doing, Bell and Howells or 3M woolen sacks, but I need belts for imported things, so I have some ordered through other sources. That being said, we'll throw the original back in. Okay, we're going to try this again with the original belt installed. We do have both channels, so our repair seems to be a success. I wanted to put it all back together and do a final. This will probably be the final, as the belt is on a slow boat, so it'll get here eventually. It's going to change tracks here. Both channels. I'll mention a couple things. I'm getting a little bit of crosstalk. Now this tape has not been restored. You have to pad and splice. Pad and splice is the rules. New pad, new splice. That's not been done to this tape yet. Another thing with these models with the plastic retainer, it's got a stress crack from time. Plastic shrinks. I'm not going to touch that. I'm not going to touch it. It's been fine. I could fill it with JB Weld plastic if I wanted, but I'm just going to leave it. Others you might want to, because they're in pieces, but I'm going to leave that. I could put a drop of epoxy or something there, but let's get another tape. Okay, this is what I'm talking here. You want to get in this hobby, new pad, new splice. New pad, new splice. The tape will play fine if the tape is spooled correctly. Oh, start and pause here. Track 1. Okay. And here we go.
I found him by the railroad track. I hear the train a-comin'.
I still have some crosstalk, so that's going to have to be addressed here. I didn't want to have to deal with the head, but we'll see. Okay, a couple things I want to check. As I've just come into ownership of this deck, but someone's been in here. They've got the speed circled, which I'm not into, adjusting speed. Once you touch these motors, you're in uncharted territory. When the speed adjustment is needed, you can run into trouble with that holding. This elevator, whatever you want to call it, it moves freely, but I'm going to put maybe not even a drop. I'll just put some light lubricant on there. And this isn't our problem that the retainer is cracked. I'm going to go in and I'm going to adjust the azimuth and or the height. Okay, a quick touch-up of the Azimuth, which is what this slot in the gear is for, what this little half moon is for. That's the only adjustment that appears messed with or adjusted, and I've just tweaked it and it's come right in. This is the height adjustment over here, but that's never been, that still has the factory seal on it, so I'm not touching that one. And I'll be careful here because of copyright, but I can tell you that each track we have eject,
In the turn.
okay, I have no crosstalk. Pause that a minute. I wanted to say before I adjusted or made any adjustments, I cleaned the head and the capstan. Always clean. I don't like adjusting anything. I don't like turning anything. These things are aligned from the factory in Japan, and they had much more exquisite equipment than the average user does. So a lot of the adjustments I don't want to mess with. Same with the alignment. They had, I'm sure they had the top of the line instruments to do all these alignments with. There's nothing that really should have changed other than age and parts that are affected. So anyway, I'm going to go with this for now. The new belt doesn't work. The old belt I cleaned, and it seems to be operating fine. So I'm going to leave it with the old belt until I can find a suitable replacement, which is on order. Okay, on the side here, one last thing. This is the cap 1016 for the relay, the track plunger. And it was green and corroded like a battery. I just was going to clip it out and replace it. I have a 1025 here. And I went to clip the lead and it basically just disintegrated on me here. It just fell off. So we'll check this for ESR. Oh, actually look, the leg came right out of it. These don't have the best reputation, these blue Panasonic caps from the 1970s. Alright, we'll get that. You can see the piece of the old one there. We'll get that out of there. And that pad is literally non-existent here. It's corroded all the way up to here. So we're going to scrape back some of this and get a nice fresh ground. As you can see, it literally does eat the copper. Okay, and there's that repair. They said I was